This video will show the solution to the lab where you will be using the Bluemix CLI to manage an application. Have a web browser, Chrome, pointed at the repository that we're going to use to get the source code for the application that we'll deploy to Bluemix. To download this to my workstation, click on the clone or download button. And we'll go through the flow here where we're downloading a zip file and unpacking it. If you have the git command, you can actually do a git clone of this down to your workstation to wherever you want to work with the project. We'll download the zip file. And once that's complete, we'll unpack the zip. And here you can see it in my downloads folder. Just open this up, and here's our application assets. Let's go to a terminal window now and get to work with Bluemix. Change directory into the folder. And here's all my application components. I've got app.js for the server code for JavaScript from Node.js, and a package.json file which will be used for the dependencies for the application. Let's start off by logging into Bluemix. Provide my API endpoint for US South. Provide my email address, account ID. Now, I only have one organization and space, so I won't be prompted to specify those here. If you have a Bluemix account that has more than one organization and space, you'll be prompted before the login completes. Once the login is complete, it shows me where I am connected and the current organization and space. Next step, let's get our service that we're going to bind to the application. First, let's get the name that we're supposed to use for the service, and we'll get that from the Bluemix offerings catalog. This command will take a little while to run because it has to go out and gather the offering information from all of the service brokers within the catalog. So this will take a moment. Okay, the service offerings command has completed, and we have a list that have come out to the terminal. Let's scroll up to the C's for Cloudant to see the service information for the Cloudant NoSQL database. Highlight this with the mouse. For each service on the Bluemix catalog, you'll see an entry which shows the service name, the plans that are available for the service, and a description of the service capabilities. So we're going to use this service name, matching that case, and we will use the light plan. To create the service, we'll use the bxservice_create command. And we'll specify the service name, a light plan, and then we'll provide the name that we want the service instance to be used in our space. Okay, now with our service created, let's push our application to Bluemix, create the application, but don't start it because we still need to bind the service instance to it. Now we use the bxapp_push command. We'll provide a name for the service. I'm also going to specify on the command line the command to start the application, the amount of memory for the app. Then we'll tell the CLI not to use the manifest file for other properties. That way we can bind the service instance that we just created to the application. I'll skip the manifest file. And then we'll also tell the CLI not to start the application, just upload the application assets and create the application in Bluemix, but not deploy it. Okay, the application has been pushed up to BlueMix. Now we can bind the service to the application. Provide the application name. And then the service instance name. And now the service has been bound to the application, which means that the credentials that are needed are available or will be available through the application environment, through the vCAPS services environment variable. Now we can start the application. vxapp start. This process will perform the staging, which takes the application assets, goes through and identifies the correct build pack to use for the application based upon the assets of the application. So it'll spot a package.json and a JS file and conclude that we need to use the SDK for Node.js. Now the SDK for Node.js build pack will go through the build process. The biggest portion of that will be to grab all of the dependencies of the node modules necessary for the app. Once the build is done, then the application and its dependencies will be packaged up into a blob and stored into a blob store in BlueMix. And then one of those blobs will be used to go out to a container that's available, create a cell to run the application. Okay, the application has finished deployment, and then the last thing the CLI does is provide a status report. Shows how much memory, the route for the application, and the build pack, and the status of the instance that's up. Let's go back to the browser. We'll go to the BlueMix dashboard. Okay, and it's already refreshed. See, here is the app name and the route. Let's click on this to open it up in a new tab. And here's that Node.js application, the favorites organizer. Now note here that the document that's used for the attachments that are going up in the favorites organizer has got the name of sample doc. I'll show you how to change that and then redeploy the application to BlueMix with the changes. So let's start by closing this tab, and we will switch over to the Atom text editor. I'm going to open a folder here with our application inside. And we'll start editing the app.js file. We'll scroll down here to about line 350, where the code to create that document sits. There it is, the sample document. You see a sample doc and the value that's assigned to it when the document is created, inserted into the database. Let's change all these instances of the word sample to the word test. Now when this application starts, it will create a document for all of the attachments, and it's going to be called test doc, and it's going to have a name of test document. We'll do a save. Okay, before we deploy the application, let's go back to the Cloudant dashboard and remove that document that was initially created when we deployed the app the first time. So to get the Cloudant dashboard, we'll click on our application name to go to the application dashboard. Go here to our connections area, click here on my service. And when you click on a service, it opens a service management or service details panel. From the service details panel for Cloud and DB, there's a launch button which will take us to the Cloud and dashboard. So on the Cloud and dashboard at the top level, there's a status that shows the current throughput. Let's click on the database icon to bring up our databases. There's only one database in this Cloud instance. We'll open that. And there's just one document here. This is that sample document. Let's delete it. We're going to click on Edit Document. So we see here's a sample doc and the value of sample doc for the name. We're going to go ahead and delete. Confirm the deletion. Okay, now there's no documents left in the database. Let's go back to the CLI and push. Okay, we're ready to push the application. We still don't want to use a manifest file, so we'll use bx app push. We can let it start right away this time. The results from the previous build are cached, so this time the builder doesn't have to go out and grab all the node modules, so we've had a little bit of a faster deploy time this time. Okay, now the app has started. Let's go back into the browser and reopen the application. I'm going to go back to the application dashboard. And one way to get there, I'll just click on routes, select the route name. And now we see the application has a differently named document for the attachments. Now it's called test doc. So the changes that we made through the CLI have now been propagated to the application that's running in Bluemix. Okay, to clean up here, we'll go back to the terminal and we will delete the application and we will delete the service. To delete the application, we use bx app delete, app name, and the -r command will remove the route that's associated with the application as well. If you didn't use the -r command, then the application route would be saved and still be available within your organization for use with other applications. But we won't need that again here. And now let's delete the service. bx service delete and the service instance name. And that concludes the solution for the lab with using the Bluemix CLI. You now know how to use the Bluemix CLI and a number of very common commands for managing applications and services.